On the Choose to Think podcast, I will encourage and empower you to engage and optimize your best thought life in practical, meaningful ways so that you can live day by day in joy, peace, and God's purpose despite all externals. This is Victoria, and welcome back to the Choose to Think podcast. I'm so glad you're here. Have you ever stepped into a church service or even a restaurant or some other place where the lights were so dim that you found yourself needing time for your eyes to adjust? Or do you ever visit someone's house and it's bright and sunny outside, but when you walk in, you feel like you're walking into a dungeon of sorts? Gosh, I really hate that. In my house right now, Jim and I, we have lots of large windows that naturally allow a lot of light to enter. I love it. I also have a quote on my website that says, "The light shines brighter in the dark." I love this quote because if you're going through a tough season, a little bit of light can make a boatload of difference. You've heard how a single struck match can light up an entire underground cavern that is pitch black. Light is amazing. And guess what? The light of Christ lives inside you. Let's let His light shine into our minds today. And you know what? We're concluding the 3-part series called Spring Reset for Your Mind. Over these last few weeks, we've been slowing down together and talking about what it looks like to reset your mind gently, intentionally, and spiritually. Not through pressure, not through perfection, but through awareness, truth, and renewal. In the first episode, we talked about what happens when our minds become stale from recycled fear, rumination, negativity, and emotional heaviness. We discussed the importance of letting fresh air into our thinking again and recognizing that sometimes we've been sitting in mental environments that no longer serve us well. Then later in episode 2, we moved into the corners. As an analogy, I talked about my dad's shop and how Jim and I began cleaning it. The first step that we took was to blow the thing out to remove all the surface dirt and debris. Mentally and emotionally, we discussed that subtle clutter that we tend to stop noticing over time. It might be the low-level worry, the background stress, the quiet self-criticism, the assumptions, the emotional noise that slowly accumulates in the corners of our minds. And we explored how repeated thoughts create pathways in the brain and how awareness is often the first step toward change. So today, we are finishing the series by talking about light, because once you open the windows and once you begin cleaning the corners, letting all that fresh air in and kind of starting to blow a few things around in there, something beautiful happens. Not only does fresh air come in and a whole lot of stuff is going to go out, but light begins to enter the room. And there's just something about light coming into a room that changes everything. You can feel it instantly. A room that felt heavy suddenly feels softer and warmer, clearer and more alive. Your mind is like that too. Once you create space by releasing some of the clutter, the next question becomes, what are you going to fill that space with? Because empty space never stays empty for long. And that matters a lot, not just spiritually, but neurologically as well. Your brain is constantly adapting based on repetition. Neuroscience calls this neuroplasticity, which simply means the brain can form new pathways over time. The hopeful part of that is this: your current thought patterns are not necessarily permanent. Your brain can change. New pathways can form. New defaults can develop. But new pathways require intentional input. You cannot stop thinking fearful thoughts, for example, and expect peace to automatically appear. Your brain needs replacement. It needs direction. It needs truth to rehearse. That's one reason that scripture focuses so much not only on what to remove from our minds, but what to place there instead. Paul writes in Romans 12:2, do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. I love that verse. I love it. I love the word renewing because it implies process. It implies repetition. It implies gentleness over time, not a once and done. Renewal actually is rarely instant. I guess it could be, but for me, the mind renewal that I've done, kind of the grunt work, has been very slow, sometimes painstaking, and quite gradual. Most of the meaningful work that God does in you will also happen gradually, layer by layer, thought by thought, pathway by pathway. But once the windows are open and the corners are cleared and the light begins coming in, something else becomes possible because now you can finally see what has been living there all along. The light exposes what you've cleared away, and now it's time to intentionally fill those spaces with something so much better, because your brain does not simply stop using pathways. It needs new ones to travel. That's part of renewal too. So maybe you've swept away thoughts like these. I'm never enough. I always mess things up. Nobody really cares about me. I have to hold everything together. It's all up to me. Or something bad is probably going to happen next. Maybe you've said to yourself, I'll never change, or I can't trust anyone, or God is surely disappointed in me. Ever had any of those thoughts? Well, guess what? The light is going to help you cast those out and put into their place. Instead, you can begin slowly, gently repeating, inserting truth-filled, life-giving thoughts like these. I am growing, even if it's kind of slow. How about God is patient with me? I do not have to believe every fearful thought I think. I can rest without earning my worth. Boy, sometimes I struggle to rest. Are you that way too? And I feel guilty if I'm not doing something sometimes. It's crazy. But you and I both can rest. We're not trying to earn anything. We're allowed to rest. We need to rest. How about this thought? Peace is possible. God is present with me right now, right here. I am being renewed. My mind is being renewed. I am being transformed. The Lord is my shepherd. I have what I need. I can learn new ways of thinking. My mind does not have to stay stuck here. Do you notice the difference in those groups of thoughts that I just read to you? It's amazing. I find myself just kind of taking a deep breath as I'm reading those life-giving thoughts, and they're so energizing. They're so exciting. They're so hopeful. They're just what I need. Let me tell you, this is the work of renewal. It is not perfection. It's practice. Not pretending negative thoughts never appear, but learning not to build a home for them in your mind. Don't allow space for them. Over time, as you rehearse truth more consistently than fear, your brain begins forming different pathways. Your emotional atmosphere begins shifting, and your mind slowly becomes a place with more peace, clarity, stability, and light. Dallas Willard once said, the first and most basic thing we can and must do is to keep God before our minds. I think that connects beautifully to this conversation, because what consistently occupies our attention slowly shapes the atmosphere of our inner lives. And listen, I really want you to hear this today. You were never meant to live in constant mental overload and heaviness. Now, does that mean life is always light and easy? Of course not. We all walk through grief, disappointment, uncertainty, stress, and pain. Some of you listening are carrying very real burdens right now. But there's a difference between carrying a burden honestly before God and living trapped under layer after layer of chronic mental darkness that you've really unknowingly rehearsed for years. There is a gentleness in God that invites you into lighter living. And I'm kind of punning there. Light, brighter, and light, not as heavy. Not shallow living, not denial, but peace-filled living. Jesus himself said in Matthew 11:30, my yoke is easy and my burden is light. I think many of us have accidentally made our internal world far heavier than God intended because we continuously rehearse fear and pressure, criticism, comparison, and all that kind of worst case thinking. And I truly understand that because I've done it too. I remember the precise moment when I felt the load of deep depression lifting from my soul, from my shoulder. It was almost tangible to me. I had just finished a chat session with a mentor. And as I was leaving the church, it was such a glorious spring day that I thought, I'm going to go sit beside this nearby lake. And I was going to actually rest. Isn't that good? And I needed to. It had been such a difficult season of my life where I was at the lowest of lows. For several weeks, if not months, I had been actively working on mind renewal, taking my thoughts captive and allowing God to heal my heart from its brokenness. The progress seemed so slow. But there, as I sat on the bank of that lake, I closed my eyes and I could feel the heat of the sun softly warming my skin. It was just so magnificent. The light of the sun was all around me. And for the first time, I felt a glimmer, just the smallest sliver of hope. Hope. Hope was there. It's the first time I'd felt it in so long, and it felt good to be alive in that moment, to be surrounded by this warmth and this bright sunshine. My soul felt at peace for the first time in over a year. It's as if God whispered to me, "You're going to be all right, Victoria. You're my daughter." His presence that day flooded my heart with love and light. I was doused by his goodness. I felt a wave of delight as my spiritual cup was running over. One of the things that I've learned over the years is that the brain does not respond only to removal. It responds to replacement. If you spend years rehearsing fear, you cannot simply say, "I'm just going to stop worrying," and expect your mind to suddenly become peaceful. It doesn't work that way. The brain needs a new pathway to travel. That's why gratitude matters so much. Gratitude is not pretending that hard things do not exist. Gratitude is intentionally directing attention toward what is still true, still good, still beautiful, and still provided by God, even in the middle of difficulty. That afternoon by the lake, I felt so thankful for the way my Father was leading me and showing himself to me. I felt so grateful that he had never left me nor forsaken me. He was with me every thought along the way. Did you know, though, that my ministry was first called Start with a Grateful Heart? As God led me through that depression, one mindset I actively and daily fostered was that of gratitude, a mindset that also helped shift me out of self-pity, self-focus, and grumbling and griping, all of which had impacted my depressive state. The good news is that gratitude actually changes your brain. Studies have shown that gratitude practices can strengthen emotional regulation, reduce your stress responses, and help to redirect attention away from chronic negativity. I needed that so badly. In other words, gratitude gently helps train your mind toward different pathways. And this aligns beautifully with Philippians 4:8. Whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is commendable, think about these things. Notice Paul gives direction to the mind, because what we repeatedly focus on shapes us. It's Dr. Caroline Leaf who said, she penned the phrase, "What you focus on grows." So what do you want to grow in your mind? There's so much wisdom in making sure that what you're focused on is what God would have you to focus on. Our minds need somewhere healthy to rest, don't they? And honestly, this entire sacred thinking journey that I've been walking through personally, and now I'm writing devotionally, has grown out of this exact realization. I began noticing how much my thought life affected my emotional health, my spiritual peace, my relationships, and even my physical body. That's one reason I've been pouring so much into the sacred thinking devotional that I'm currently writing. I want it to feel deeply practical and deeply hopeful. Not heavy theology disconnected from real life, but real life mind renewal anchored in God's truth, neuroscience, emotional awareness, and scripture. Because I truly believe God cares about the atmosphere of your mind and of my mind. I wanted to create a place, and that's coming in 2027, where women could walk through these conversations together honestly, not pretending that we have it all perfectly figured out and all held together, but encouraging each other as we learn healthier patterns of thinking and living. That's essentially what the circle will be about. Because renewal happens beautifully in community too. Matter of fact, I think it happens a little easier there, if I could say that, a little bit quicker maybe, because we need accountability and we need encouragement along the way. So let me leave you with something very simple and very practical this week. Choose one truth, not 10, not an entire list, just one truth. Maybe it's something like these might be, God is with me. Peace is possible. I do not have to believe every thought. The Lord is my shepherd. I am being renewed. God is patient with me. Just choose one thought and intentionally return to it throughout the day. Let your brain rehearse something life-giving for once instead of automatically drifting toward fear and heaviness. And alongside that, practice gratitude in small ways. Notice the sunlight through a window, a warm cup of coffee, a memory that makes you smile, a verse that steadies you, the sound of birds outside, a conversation that encouraged you. Gratitude trains your mind to notice the light again. And maybe that's the real invitation of this whole series. Open the windows, let the fresh air in, clear the corners, and then let the light enter too. Not forcefully, not hurriedly, not through striving, just intentionally. Because light doesn't force its way into a room. It's simply invited. And I think God often works that way in our minds too. He's so gentle and patient and faithful. One thought at a time. Thank you so much for tuning into this series. I've got several guest interviews coming up. I can't wait to share those real life stories with you so that you can see other brain changers, other women and men who are fighting the good fight and running this race and doing their very best. I can't wait for you to hear their stories. So thank you again for tuning in. If you would like to get on the Insider Secret group for the devotional, please, there's a link in the show notes. All you have to do is tap it and give your email. That's it. It puts you on my subscriber list for my newsletter. That's free. Comes every month, a couple times. Just a way to stay in touch, and you'll be the first to know about all the freebies and bonus offers for the devotional when it comes closer to publication date later in November. So thank you again. I just appreciate your support so much and your prayers. I really do need them, and I really do mean this. So God bless you today. Have a wonderful, light-filled day. And remember, you keep living your best thought life, and I'm going to do the same. God bless you. And that's a wrap, Brain Changer. And listen, if you like what you hear, would you leave us a 1 to 2 sentence review at Apple Podcasts? Share the link with a friend or tag me on your share on social media. It would mean the world to me and would help us to keep shining the light of Christ and sharing the good news to others who are in need of encouragement. Please visit us on our website at choosetothink.co. That's with the number 2, choosetothink.co, to get on our monthly newsletter list. And if you need a guest speaker for your next women's retreat or church event, I'm your gal. Email me at choosetothink@gmail.com, and that's with the number 2, choosetothink@gmail.com. Finally, I offer limited free mentoring sessions each month where you and I can chat to help you develop a strategy for your thoughts in any area of your life. I'm a certified life coach, and I have something to share. Visit choosetothink.co and click on mentoring for more details. Also, keep in mind that the messages on this show are for informational and educational purposes only. Please consult your medical doctor for all medical issues. Thank you again for tuning in. God bless you.